All right. So welcome everyone to our first SFAA Spotlight Talk with Dimitra Skandali. I'm so excited to have Dimitra join us today and all of you. My name is Maria Teresa Barbist. I'm one of the co-founders of SFAA. And yeah, I'm just thrilled that so many alumni came today to listen to Dimitra and hear her talk about her artwork, but also about a residency that she started recently on the island of Paros. And the way that we are going to do the talk today is Dimitra is going to start us off with, showing us some of her images about her artwork. If you want to share your screen now, Dimitra, please go ahead.
Okay.
And then we're also gonna talk a little bit about the residency that Dimitra has on the island of Paros. And please feel free throughout the talk, in the chat, please ask any questions that you have and just write them in the chat. And then the last, I believe, 20 minutes, we're gonna have a Q&A. So I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself, and then you can ask the, questions also directly if you want to, or I can ask them for you. You can go ahead and share the screen, Dimitra.
I did. You don't see it, huh?
Not yet, no.
Okay, one moment.
Try it again. And yeah, just a little bit on the background for the SFAA Spotlight series. So this is our first talk in the series. And we are hoping to continue this series every first Monday of the month at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Zoom. And we're going to have already confirmed 2 artists that are going to talk in November and December. We don't have quite settled yet what date. One of the artists, Mercedes Rame, I believe is the right name, is going to do a talk, and Francisco Pinheiro, who is here, is going to do a talk. So we are going to keep you updated on when those talks are going to happen, but expect to get like every month or so an invite to a spotlight. And I think you're ready, Dimitra, right?
I'm glad I made it.
Wonderful. Well, take it over. Go ahead. It's your time.
Thank you so much. I see some of my colleagues. We graduated together. We overlapped at SFAA. Hello everyone. It's a great honor to start this spotlight series, Maria Teresa. I think you guys are doing incredible work. Thank you for your effort, especially during these hard times for the last years, the last months of SFAA. We said it before, it's heartbreaking, but as I always say, SFAA keeps inspiring us, and feeling that we are all in the same community, no matter where we are in the world. I think it's the most important thing. And we carry SFAA in our heart for all the years. That doesn't change. I will start with my work. I will try to do as quickly as I can, because 20 minutes is not a big time. But anyway, I will try my best. I will start with this piece that I did. Can you see it now? Correct? You can see.
Yes, Dimitra, perfect. I think everyone can see it. Thank you.
So I will start with this piece that was one of the site-specific installations I did in 2010 in Athens School of Fine Arts, where I used to work a lot with industrial materials. And I made a series of installations going from the light towards the darkness, going through obstacles and edgy materials like the metal nets that you see here. And I wanted to show the personal struggle of each one of us to find his own self and his own way. And then I made it to San Francisco. My goodness, what wonderful experience was that. And this was the very first installation I did in 2011 at SFAA. in our studio, in my studio in 3rd Street, the graduate studios of 3rd Street. I carried with me these old looms and I made this installation. It was, for me, I always say that my installations are like 3-dimensional drawings. And it was, I played with this line form. And what happened when I arrived in San Francisco was with this feeling of experimenting and wanting to open up my my practice, to do my approach to my elements, but also to the relationship that I had with my pieces. What happened, and with the help of my colleagues, it was that I invited people to interact with my pieces. It was a very stressed period. I mean, in general, doing installations was always difficult for me, as I took time to accept the ephemerality of each piece, right? So whenever I did something, I had to deinstall, and nothing was there anymore. So with this very first event that happened when I invited my friends, and they destroyed my piece, and then they created another piece after all this interaction, let's say. So it was a big inspiring moment for me, because I saw it that it's not the end of the piece, it is a continuity of the piece, and how people can really be part of what I was doing. A big moment that SFAA offered to me. So this was the first semester, and then I visit my aunt in San Diego, and this is when I had endless times at the beaches of San Diego, and this is where I found seaweed from the Pacific that I collected from the beach. And because of the line form, because it reminded me of a thread, I started crocheting with it. So this seaweed is, as I said, from the Pacific. It's called Zostera marina, and since the winter, at the end of 2011 and the beginning of 2012, I started crocheting with it. And this is the very first piece I did at Diego Rivera Gallery. And after I made it, after I played with the pieces, how can I say it, with the squares of a netting, it was a very basic action to crochet and just make nets. But after I installed it, I realized that what I was doing was something, I just realized it only when I saw it in front of me. So I left away from my home, going away from tradition, because I wanted to meet new things, to learn new things out there, 10,000 miles away almost. And but I saw that I carried the village I was coming from. So these nets were resembling the fishing nets that I learned, that all my life were in front of me here in the village, because it's a fisherman village where I grew up in Aliki. And also the action of the crocheting was a traditional habit, I don't know how to say it, that I had learned about it when I was young, but I never thought that I would do something like that in my art. So starting with these traditional techniques and creating contemporary pieces was a big, another strong moment to realize when I came to San Francisco. I realized that I am really these things. It's not, I wanted to go away from all these that I thought they were heaviness. They were dragging me down here. But when I went away, they were a source of inspiration for me, and this was very important to realize. These are detail of that shot, of that piece, and now you will see some different forms of the same idea of this fishing net, seaweed nets. This is in my studio in 3rd Street. Also with the seaweed ball that you see below, which is made also from seaweed threads. These are detail shots. And this is another installation in a Biennale I was invited in 2012, where I occupied the whole building also with these nets. And this is the final presentation that I had at the Mint in 2013, where I used the seaweed nets and the seaweed sculptures, but also if you see down to the right, I made this drawing using the map of the West Coast and some little parts that reminded me of islands, let's say. They were like lakes or points of water that I saw on the map of the West Coast. But then I added the depths of the Aegean Sea. If you see the little dots are the numbers of the Aegean Sea. And using Mylar to the right and the little fan, I played with light and I wanted to create these reflections with the light. And with all this, I realized that what happened was I used the material that I found in this new place. I was using the map of this place to feel that I'm standing in to understand this new place. But then I was using all this tradition or my roots where I was coming from, like the crocheting or the fishing nets or the depths of the Aegean Sea. So I was trying to find the balance between the two and to keep creating a dialogue between the two. Another piece I did with seaweed, this is all made by seaweed strands. I knotted the seaweed together, and this I created this seaweed room at the headlands. The first one was made in San Jose ICA, and I called it 6,885 miles, which represented the distance between Paros here and San Francisco. And it is very, it is an empty room, and I wanted to show this the absence of the beloved people and the big distance, having an empty room in this space. Another piece was this one that I did at YBCA in 2014, where I used metal nets and chicken wires and cables and other kinds of wires and tapes, as you see, but also sound, radio signals, and the piece was interactive, so when the viewer were coming, they were touching it, the sound would change. So what was happening was I invited David Janesco and Eugene Young, my colleague. We graduated together with them, and David used this, I don't know, his magic to attract all the radio stations around the area of the Bay Area of YBCA in the central San Francisco. And my piece was the antenna somehow. So he connected his home do-it-yourself radio circuits that he made and he connected it to my piece, and we were catching the radio signals of the area, so we recorded it, and Eugene made the whole sound piece and the performance at the day of the opening. And then people touching it, the wires and everything, they interfere somehow with the piece. So that was a very interesting to do it. I think we will skip also this one, although I love that piece, but the time is too limited. Let's see. This is a piece that I did with all the nets that I made from since 2012 until 2015. I put them all together and I created this dress where I was wearing it. I did the performance. I was obsessively crocheting it at the opening of this exhibition that Microclimate Collective curated it in Alter Space in San Francisco. And it was the first time I found plastic threads that I found at the sea. So in that piece, I also invited the guests to, in a half an hour window of my performance, to make strands and offer me. And also at another point of the exhibition, I asked them to bring me different parts, different materials that they thought I could use in my dress, to add in my dress. Another opening to the audience, and this is why I am using that piece, because from that piece, and because somebody brought me this amazing handkerchief from her grandmother, I used it and I started embroidering with seaweed. So I wanted to show the development of how I began using the trash with the natural material, how I began using another traditional technique except the crocheting that I started with, like the embroidering. You will see more later. And this is, we go to another piece that I do during my residency in Alter Space in the jail residency. I was for a month in that basement with this cell, and I used the copper wire, a wire to form islands in the cell, and also safety blankets with light to indicate a path again going to this cell. These are detailed shots. So this piece was made during the financial, I mean, all these years where the financial crisis was very intense in Greece, of course. The years were very difficult. And I created all this complex of the islands in the cell with all the strands, pulling them and deform them somehow. And it was my wish, showing that light that you saw here, but also having a game with over here, you will see the game I had with the light. I wanted to convey a feeling of remaining, having the spirits up and get inspiration of our light, which can be the actual light, of course, and the beauty of our country, but also the light that comes from our history and where we come from, to remember where we come from and get strength and inspiration from it. The same piece traveled to San Jose again, in ICA San Jose, and here you will see again the islands, the forms of the islands that was filled, that had filled the whole space of that room, and they were creating a three-dimensional map. You see them in the air, but you see also their shadows on the wall. And I also used again the numbers of the depth of the Aegean Sea. And sounds from the sea and the Greek summer. You see here the numbers of the depths of the Aegean Sea. Okay, we go in 2016. That was a piece at ProArts. I was awarded the 2x2 solos, a beautiful exhibition in this space in Auckland. where I created again different kind of nets, so using also wood to hang more. I don't know how to. I don't know how to explain, to describe. Maybe no, if they were more more clearly formed with this wooden frame, let's say. Yes. And in this piece, I used more fishing nets, actual fishing nets, and found pieces of fishing nets with the plastic threads. And I had a big video projecting on this very ethereal and fragile material that it was, the effect was like that.
Quick question from Brian. If this was a pool, it might have been the slide before. Was this a pool before?
Where? Here. Here.
Yeah, probably this one. Yeah.
Ah, so this is the game with the Mylar and the light. I was always trying to create an atmosphere with the game of the light. And this is a reflection made by Mylar, with the Mylar. I think you can see here. You see that this is the Mylar, and I have the projection on it, and to create these reflections on the wall. I'm always attracted by that. And you hear also me reading a poem from a very important Greek poet. And it's the same approach, you know, to get inspiration from our past and our rich history. And so with this one, I wanted to add only that I wanted to have this contrast of this violent movement and sounds also. It was a very strong sound in the space, and I wanted to show how important it was to be how is the word, focus to, or be confident for and to pursue our dreams, and to feel sorry, I am missing the right words now, but in general, it was a piece that it was dedicated to whatever was washed out by the sea, because I used the trash washed out at the beach, the plastic threads and the fishing nets and everything. But the sound that you are listening is from documentaries about refugees, which were in 2015 and 2016 and later, and still now the problem is very intense. So I used all these documentary sounds from the documentaries with this violent movement to show the importance of being together, of standing close to one another and help each other, because in these years during the financial crisis, it was very touching, the help of the simple Greek people all around the islands and close to the borders, the help that they offered to the refugees. And I wanted to honor that attitude of them. And this is in 2016, and when I made my very first exhibition on the island, and where the local people here, first time they saw what is the seaweed that I'm using. And it was very touching to see all these old people and young people, to see how I was translating tradition, because for me it was about tradition, and how I created contemporary pieces. So this, what you are seeing here, is I used all these beach straws and also fishing nets that also the fisherman offered to me here. And I recreated fishing tools like the one to the down right is the long line fishing, long line fishing, yes. And I did it with my parents. So that was dedicated to the fishermen of Paros. And here I had a room only for the women. I mean, not only for the women, dedicated to women, where I used all these traditional handmade handkerchief and embroidering. This was my very first embroidering to the right. So it was a dedication to the local people here, and it was a way that to communicate with them and to for them to understand what I was doing, but also for me, it was important to somehow to connect with them somehow, because it was not easy for them to understand that what I was doing. And here, then this is another embroidering. In the middle, you see another embroidering with the kofto, the traditional technique of kofto, and I used the traditional motifs with the forms of the island. And they are all made with seaweed, as you can imagine. And I started also writing on the seaweed poetry. In the middle, again, you see that. And these are pieces that I'm using more and more fishing nets that I find at the beach. Okay, we will skip that, I guess, because I don't know how much time we have, but these are some examples of embroiderings on fabrics with seagrass, and in combination with projections, I played and I recreated the kind of, okay, here I can show some seconds of that. I recreated the sense of being underwater. So in that piece, I used this kind of embroiderings and projections and the big site-specific drawing. And this was inspired by corals in my trip to Indonesia, where it was the first time ever that I saw corals, and I was so impressed and inspired to do that piece afterwards. Okay, and then I go at the studios of Key West for a second time, another residency that was very inspiring for me to be. And I did this piece with found corals. It was after the tsunami in 2017, I think it was, when a big tsunami hit the area. And I collected all these dead corals from the beach, and I made this piece, and also this embroidering that you see to the right. And I used poetry again on. I was inspired by E. Cumming, and I called this piece "For Whatever We Lose." Like a you or a me, it's always ourselves we find in the sea. But the diving into the poetry in that piece, and talking about also, you know, the force of nature, and what we do to protect nature, and it was always digging into poetry. And when I came back to San Francisco, I made this solo show at Don Soccer Contemporary, where I used the poetry of T.S. Eliot. It was the four quartets, and the maps from the Bay Area. All these little maps that are hanging, they are maps from the Bay Area, but I also used the poetry to create the map. So here, okay, and here you can see examples of poetry on the Greek seaweed. Posidonia is the Greek seaweed that you see to the two right frames. And to the left, this big embroidering is inspired by the seismological activity of the West Coast for the last decade, since 2018. And here, this is what I wanted to show you. So I recreated this kind of mapping using letters and dots and line as elements to create the drawing. So you see also the depths of the bay, the map of the Bay Area, and not the Bay Area, sorry. Yes, the Bay Area. It's all up until up. You see it in the middle. You see the Golden Gate Bridge, for example. I cannot use the mouse, but anyway, the whole area around San Francisco and the Bay Area. And it was this effort to understand where I'm standing, because until 2018 and 19, I was traveling so much that I felt that I'm missing something there in San Francisco. Whenever I was coming back, I didn't feel I was missing my connections. I was missing, I felt that I had too many gaps, you know. And when I came here, in Paros, I also felt that I'm not connected anymore. Life was continuing, and I felt that I'm missing the life of my beloved people. I came back, I saw them all, of course, older in different phases. I felt that I have lost in touch with these people also here. So the poetry of T.S. Eliot, it was interesting how his words helped me understand these gaps, these emotions that I was feeling. And then from this small scale poetry and drawings, I went to this incredible opportunity at Sandra Cerrito Contemporary in Auckland, where she ran the Peripheral Visions program for a while. And this was a residency for a month. And I invited the visitors, but also online via email with all my network, to send me poetry and pieces that they loved from literature, and where they come from, all these people. And then I created a three-dimensional map. So I drew all these, the world on the walls of the gallery, and I added the poems that they sent me in each place they were from. And I also added the coordinates of these places. I had a very minimal addition in the middle of the space with parts, little parts. You see here some threads, some metal pieces bits that I found in my travels around the world. So it was a representation of the whole world, and how in one room, how we are all connected through poetry, through these little elements. It doesn't have to be too much. And it was a very touching experience to invite all these people to contribute to that piece. I think I will skip that too. And this is one of the last pieces that I made in Berkeley, in I don't remember now, the cube space. This is the cube space that I just happened in 2019. This was the second exhibition from the City of Berkeley program. And I made this map, this embroidering on an emergency blanket. These are two emergency blankets, and I depicted. I made a drawing of the Pacific, of the physiographic charts of the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, and I embroidered it, and I hanged it from seaweed. I embroidered it with seaweed, of course, right? And I hanged it with seaweed strands and these fishing nets that I found in India when I traveled. So using all these elements from Atlantic, Pacific, the seaweed from the Pacific, and also the fishing nets from India, I wanted to show that we are all connected in the threads of the ocean pollution, and it is a universal issue. It's not one place's issue. And this is a little excerpt of this video. Oh, and the projection of the Aegean Sea. So I connected all the and you hear the sound of me embroidering the emergency blanket. So it was a symbolic action, because the emergency blanket is supposed to offer you protection and security. But here it's destroyed. I have destroyed it with the action of embroidering. And we come to, okay, I'm showing that different images from this two-person show that I did in Athens in 2019, before COVID, where you can see all different pieces of seaweed, made of seaweed, but I mainly, and the development of my fishing, on my seaweed nets, how I am adding more color and more bigger pieces of fishing nets, actual fishing nets. But then also I expanded to weaving the seaweed with, and I added the plastic threads and how is it called? These fishing lines that you see to the left, they are found at the bottom of the sea. And I invited I invited people to weave together on this piece. So it was a symbolic also action to how we contribute to the ocean pollution, to the protection of the oceans, and point out this. And then COVID comes, I stay here on Paros, and I was invited to make a site-specific installation outside in Parika, in the village, in the port of Paros. And this is what I did, because we couldn't, we were not supposed to gather in one place all together. So it was a good opportunity to make an installation outside, and people would visit, would come and go and see the piece. And during COVID, these are just examples of how I was working and experimenting with new things and being in nature also. So I was weaving a lot with a little loom, and I am making, and I also embroider to the left, up left, you see a piece with embroidered seagrass on a plastic bag that I found at the sea. So I'm doing more and more work also outside somehow. Okay, Maria, how much time do we have?
It's 41 now. So if you want to wrap up the work and then talk a little bit about the residency.
That's what I thought. Okay, there are three pieces that are very interesting to see how my work has been developed. After being here, I used more flowers and herbs. And this is I created an environment with these flowers. And this is one of the, okay, last year when I incorporated all these herbs in an abandoned hospital. I invite you to go to the website and see more, and please contact me. you got an idea, right? I'm sorry if
We did. That was amazing, Dimitra. I'm blown away by your recent pieces as well, and the videos are fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we open it to the questions, do you want to talk a little bit about the residency, just real quick, and then we can open it up to questions?
Yes, definitely, definitely, of course. That's also the point that we are meeting here. So the residency was a teamwork, is a teamwork. We have worked so hard since 2015. I have been thinking about the residency project, but it was impossible with the financial crisis to think about any kind of investment or doing something in the building here. But the inspiration came from the residencies in San Francisco that I did and after my SFAA years, not only San Francisco and in Key West, and but it was the first time I saw that something like that was possible for an artist. It is a dream being in a place, being focused in his work. So I had this luck to have this old building of my father's parents. It belongs to me, so I thought that it was the best thing that I could have it renovated and create a space for artists to come. That way I will be able to remain connected with my community, and at the same time I won't feel alone again on the island, because that was a big issue for me, to be an artist in a small place here. That was a very difficult period of time of me, and this is why I wanted to travel all the time abroad, and especially in the United States, to do my art. So if I have artists here to create work in their studios and share, it would be an amazing thing. And in 2017, my family helped me, and we're trying since then to put it all together and renovate the whole thing. And this year, this July, it was the first year that we launched the program with an exhibition, and then I invited different artist friends from around the world to stay here for several days, from 5 days to 10 days, and create artwork if they wanted to. But I wanted to test what's going on and if my idea is correct, you know. And now in September, we have the open call is out, and we receive proposals, and during these days, we will have our first selections of the artists who will come in October. I don't know if it will be from October, but November, December, and then again from March until December. We will be able to host 3 artists at a time. We have a selection committee, which consists of some curators that I visited in the Bay Area, especially. And Alison Woods is one of our fellows. She graduated in 2012 from SFAA. Donna Napper is an independent curator, and Katja Min is also an independent curator based in the Bay Area. And we also have an advisory committee with curators from the Bay Area, from Rome, based in Rome, and also Kostas Prapoglou, who is based in Greece. So we have 5 people that covers, you know, the art scene from California, from Europe, and from Greece. The idea is for creatives, not only people of artists and yes, not only artists, but also writers, poets, translators, scientists can come and take time and do their projects, but also they can share their work. What I really wanted to do what we really want to do is to open up the studios and for the local people to be able to visit their studios, to talk with the artists, to learn other perspectives, to discuss, to see that there are other approaches to everyday life, you know. Because as I said, it's a small community here and it's very based in tourism. So with this project, I would like to offer an alternate way of approaching things. What else can I say? Also a very big target also is to be able to have funding to have fellowship, so that I will offer the opportunity for artists to come with paid tickets and pay their staying. So, but for the beginning, I will have to charge. We will have to charge. It has to be sustainable, and with the time going, we will apply for funding, and as soon as we collect the amount of money that it's needed, we will offer one fellowship in the beginning, but then if we are able, we will offer more fellowships. We also want to invite artists from the art school in Athens for free. So there are many things that I would myself and with the advisory committee that we contact very often, I wanted to create opportunities for many people around the world and see how we can build a new community based on Cycladic arts. And SFAA for sure will be a common platform, you know, that we all share common experiences, and we can do amazing things, I think, all together. Tell me if you want to ask something. I know it's 8:50 now here.
That was amazing, Dimitra. I'm just still so blown away by your artwork and how it has changed, but please go ahead. Go ahead, ask questions. We got Dimitra for 9 more minutes, so please unmute yourself and ask your questions, and I will pin you, or I will just unpin the two of us, and then we are all together in the same space. There we go.
I love seeing some of you, that I know, because I don't know many of you. Well, Sandra Ramos was one of the first artists that exhibited in our first exhibition here. We are very honored, Sandra. The
That's
people
wonderful.
were so, I mean, the locals and the visitors and the tourists, they were all so enthusiastic with the works, but especially with Sandra's work. I knew that because it touched me, because we are from Ireland, both of us. So her video, it was very touching for all the community here.
Hi, can I have it's Colette here. Dimitri, I saw your work. It was a couple of years ago. I think it was John Priola. You did a talk. That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, thank you. I'm just kind of curious. So, how do you? So your last work that you do is very amazing. But it's kind of interesting how this amalgamation of, like, it seemed to me anyway, these found sounds. I mean, was it intentional to do the found sounds? Because on the other, what I found interesting was you kind of, when you were sewing and the sounds of the thread. So yeah. I was wondering, really, was it intentional at the end with the last ones to find those found sounds? Was it intentional, or yeah?
What do you mean by the last ones? Because in 2019, when I did the embroidering and the sound of the action of the embroidering, right? Maybe this is what you mean.
Well, it's the last ones that you did, the last ones that you showed. Unless I didn't hear it properly, but I thought there were a lot more found sounds. I didn't really hear the embroidery as much. So so maybe it was the actual this
for the last pieces that I did using the sound of the embroidering, but the last two pieces with the music, I didn't use the music, no. But before that, you saw the documentation of these two installations that I did with flowers. This music is not it's not my piece, but the creator of the video used this.
Okay, all right, that explains it. Yeah.
It's not my selection of. Well, we agreed to use that because we wanted to convey the hospital, vibe, and this kind of energy. Of the herbs. But the previous ones, yes, it was intentional to use, the action of the embroidering on the emergency blankets or the sounds of nature, sounds of water.
Because that kind of like that worked really well. And then I was just like, okay, what's this? But all right, that explains it now. Okay, that's fine. Just kind of curious.
Thanks, Colette. And Anne, go ahead, Anne.
This isn't so much a question, but a statement. I mean, I think the scale of your work in relationship to the delicacy is absolutely incredible. And without asking for details, because it's hard, I mean, how you install these things. I mean, I'm just really, my God, I'm fascinated, and that would take another conversation, but I do similar work, or I'm interested in this, and it's like, my God, I mean, it's not only beautiful, but so impressive. I mean, really.
But it takes forever. It can take from a week, and the last installation, so where I used all these flowers, it took 16 days to install.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but plus the time that I need to, crochet, embroider, and all my work is labor intensive.
Well, what I think is really great about it, what was once said about something I did, is no one knows it is. The ultimate effect is seamless and beautiful and continuous, and you have no idea how many hours or exactly went into it. And I went, great, that's fine. You don't need to know how many hours. So it's so beautiful, really. And I remember your work on the 2013 Art Institute alumni thing, and I thought it was really great then. And I didn't know you, and I left the Art Institute years before, but I thought, oh my God, this is her. I remember that work. It was really beautiful.
That feels really. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
Hello. Hi, Dimitra.
Francisco.
So nice to hear you. I really admire your work. I really admire your commitment to your work.
You as well.
So my question is, so as you often use seaweed and fishing nets in your work as sculptural elements, and it's so connected to your homeland, how are your sculptures seen by the art world in Greece or by the local fishing community, for instance? I was very curious to hear you.
For asking that. It was not the first show that I did on the island, where it was mostly locals and people that know me, or people that could understand the traditional approach that I had, the tradition, how I use the tradition, and I was talking about all this, was very impressed. They were very impressed. Plus, they never understood that what kind of material is that. Went to Athens, it was also they were admiring how I'm using a natural material, but I didn't feel this strikeness that the local community of the island received when I did the exhibition. slowly, and with me showing more work and expanding to other materials as well, like the herbs. And so you have the smell also of the herbs, and all these plants that they are in Greek nature, and also in the Mediterranean. I think suddenly the activation of the senses, it's like they make them awake. I don't know, it's something they realize again that nature is out there, because this happens especially in the cities. When I did these two last big installations in Athens, when I used the herbs, it was like a revelation for them, that to remind them the beauty of Greek nature. So that was interesting too. It's taking a while, but they are all impressed how I'm using the traditional techniques to use the seaweed from the Pacific, for example. That they are impressed by that. Plus the poetry on the Greek seaweed, they are impressed by that too. This is also a nice, a common, beautiful way to interact with them. I mean, to connect with them. Yes.
Thank you.
We have one last question from Marianne Wallace, who is also one of our board members. A funny question: what becomes of the materials in sculptures after installation? For example, the mixed fishing line seaweed. Interesting, recycling, right? This idea of what after? What do you do after the installation?
I fold them, or I put them all together in a box, in a paper box or a plastic bag, or that's how I can travel easily to places, having them with me, because they can be like that, in a small bag, and then I can expand them and create a site-specific piece. But I think this is the beauty of what I'm doing, because I work a lot by myself to create small pieces or bigger pieces, but then I put them together and they are small, and then they can fill a space, a huge space. So that's interesting attitude of this kind of materials.
So but you're kind of saving everything and reusing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, all these nets that you saw, they are used from different exhibitions. For sure, definitely. All the embroiderings. One of the embroiderings that you saw in on the fabrics, I used it to do my wedding dress. So I use everything again and again.
Yeah, Sandra was just also sharing, you know, it's so inspiring, the sustainability aspect in your work. And also Sandra and I, we are both in Miami, and Hurricane Ian just hit and devastated a part of southwest of Florida, you know. And so you talking about also your residency in Key West, and also, you know, this thinking about the water and the connection to the water, and you know, also like the fishermen, you know, that were also so impacted by the hurricane right now. And so it's really like just coming all together at this point, especially for the people in Florida, your work. And just one thing that I also wanted to say, I'm blown away how your work changed after you went back home, in a sense, you know, and how it kind of like, you incorporated all like these, it became like so diverse in a sense, like with the flowers and the herbs. And that was just really wonderful to see how you harvested your home in a different way, you know, after the seaweed and the fishing lines, how it just like it blossomed in a way, right? So
Thank you. Well, I wanted to let you know that most of these herbs are around the nature, around the island, but also from the garden of the residency. I have filled the space here with herbs. So if you manage to come, I hope you can make it. You have all these herbs just close to you. But it is important to show how where we live informs our work, right? So if I have abandoned of all these materials, somehow I'm using them, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Dimitra, this was such a treat for our first spotlight. You You
So
put the
happy.
level really high for us. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming. What a wonderful turnout. How wonderful to see you all and see all your wonderful faces here. I want to give a shout out to Annie Reiniger, one of our board members who is sponsoring this talk today. If you ever want to sponsor a talk, let us know. We are going to continue doing this on a monthly basis. So I hope to see you next month for our next talk. We will announce it very soon. And also, if you had trouble with connectivity, we're going to post a video very soon. So I'm going to work on it right now and then put it up on our YouTube. If you missed the beginning or you missed parts of it, don't worry. We're gonna put it up very soon. So thank you again, Dimitra. How wonderful.
Very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitra.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Thank you
please.
so much. So inspirational.
Thank you. For whatever you want, contact me. Stay in touch. Okay. It's so nice to feel connected.
Thank you, Dimitra. Thank you, Dimitra.